Question 1. Consider a scenario where a company is implementing IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 to consolidate customer data from various sources. The project team is eager to achieve a single, accurate view of the customer to improve marketing campaigns and customer service. However, the team has not yet conducted a thorough review of the applicable data privacy regulations or established clear data governance policies related to customer data handling. What is the most appropriate next step for the project team? Option A. Proceed with the technical implementation and configuration of the MDM server, assuming that data privacy concerns can be addressed post-implementation. Option B. Immediately halt the implementation and conduct a comprehensive review of all relevant data privacy regulations and establish robust data governance policies before proceeding. Option C. Prioritize the technical aspects of data integration and master data creation, with the understanding that compliance will be handled by a separate legal or compliance department as a secondary task. Option D. Focus on gathering all available customer data and loading it into the MDM system to ensure a complete dataset for analysis, deferring any regulatory compliance discussions until later. Correct answer is A. Proceed with the technical implementation and configuration of the MDM server, assuming that data privacy concerns can be addressed post-implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 involves managing sensitive customer data. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for data accuracy and completeness with the imperative to comply with data privacy regulations. A robust decision-making framework is crucial to ensure that the MDM solution not only meets business objectives, but also adheres to legal and ethical standards. The correct approach, which involves a thorough review of data governance policies and relevant data privacy regulations before proceeding with the MDM implementation, represents best professional practice. This proactive stance ensures that the design and configuration of the MDM system are aligned with legal requirements, such as those pertaining to data consent, data minimization, and data subject rights. By embedding compliance into the foundational stages of the project, organizations can mitigate risks of regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. This aligns with the principles of privacy by design and by default, which are increasingly mandated by data protection laws. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate business benefits without considering regulatory implications is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the collection or processing of personal data in a manner that violates data privacy laws, such as the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, if the jurisdiction were European, or similar legislation in other regions. Such a failure would expose the organization to significant fines and legal action. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical implementation without understanding the business context and data usage, risks creating an MDM system that inadvertently facilitates non-compliant data handling. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to integrate technical solutions with overarching compliance strategies. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the regulatory landscape applicable to the data being managed. This involves identifying all relevant data privacy laws and industry-specific regulations. Subsequently, a comprehensive data governance strategy should be developed or reviewed to ensure it adequately addresses these regulatory requirements. Before any technical implementation or configuration of the MDM system, a risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential compliance gaps. Finally, ongoing monitoring and auditing mechanisms should be established to ensure continued adherence to regulations throughout the lifecycle of the MDM solution. Question 2. The investigation demonstrates that a financial services firm operating within a jurisdiction with strict data privacy and reporting regulations has implemented IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 to manage customer data. The firm needs to ensure its MDM implementation can satisfy regulatory demands for comprehensive data lineage and auditability. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory compliance requirements for data governance and reporting within this context? Option A. Implement custom data transformation scripts to aggregate and report on customer data, assuming the core MDM data is secure. Option B. Utilize only the basic data validation rules within IBM InfoSphere MDM server and assume that data accuracy is sufficient for compliance. Option C. Rely on the existing network security protocols to protect sensitive customer data, as this is the primary focus of regulatory oversight. Option D. Configure IBM InfoSphere MDM server to capture and retain detailed audit trails for all data changes, including timestamps, user ID, and the nature of the change, and ensure these audit logs are readily accessible for regulatory reporting. Correct answer is D. Configure IBM InfoSphere MDM server to capture and retain detailed audit trails for all data changes, including timestamps, user ID, and the nature of the change, and ensure these audit logs are readily accessible for regulatory reporting. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the technical capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v90 with stringent regulatory compliance requirements, specifically concerning data privacy and security. The challenge lies in ensuring that the MDM implementation not only meets business needs for data governance, but also adheres to the specific data handling and reporting mandates of the relevant jurisdiction. Misinterpreting or overlooking these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The need for accurate and timely reporting, as mandated by regulatory bodies, adds a layer of complexity, demanding a proactive and well-documented approach to data management. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging IBM InfoSphere MDM servers' robust data governance and auditing features to establish clear data lineage and maintain comprehensive audit trails. This directly addresses regulatory requirements for data traceability and accountability. By configuring the MDM system to capture all data changes, including who made the change, when, and why, and by ensuring that this audit information is readily accessible and can be used to generate compliance reports, the organization demonstrates adherence to regulatory mandates. This proactive configuration and ongoing monitoring are essential for meeting the spirit and letter of data protection and reporting regulations. This approach aligns with best practices in data governance and regulatory compliance, ensuring that the organization can respond effectively to audits and inquiries. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to rely solely on the default configurations of IBM InfoSphere MDM server without specific attention to regulatory reporting needs. This fails to address the unique requirements of the jurisdiction, potentially leaving gaps in audit trails or data lineage that regulators would flag. It represents a failure to proactively implement compliance measures, leading to potential noncompliance. Another incorrect approach is to implement custom reporting solutions outside of the MDM's integrated auditing capabilities without ensuring they accurately reflect the data lineage and change history as captured by the MDM. This can lead to discrepancies between reported data and the actual system records, creating a significant compliance risk. It also bypasses the built-in controls and auditability of the MDM, making it harder to prove compliance. A further incorrect approach is to assume that data security measures alone are sufficient for regulatory compliance, neglecting the specific requirements for data lineage, audit trails, and reporting. While security is critical, it does not encompass all aspects of regulatory compliance, particularly those related to data governance and transparency. This oversight can lead to non-compliance in areas beyond basic data protection. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach this situation by first thoroughly understanding the specific regulatory framework applicable to their jurisdiction concerning data management and reporting. This involves consulting with legal and compliance experts. Subsequently, they must map these regulatory requirements to the capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v90, identifying how the system's features can be configured and utilized to meet these mandates. A key step is to design and implement a data governance strategy that incorporates robust auditing and lineage tracking, ensuring that all data modifications are recorded and accessible for reporting. Regular reviews and testing of the implemented controls and reporting mechanisms are crucial to maintain ongoing compliance and adapt to any changes in regulations or system functionality. Question 3. Upon reviewing the implementation plan for IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v90, Which of the following approaches best ensures adherence to regulatory compliance requirements concerning data privacy and security? Option A. Delegate all compliance-related decisions to the IT implementation team, trusting their technical expertise to interpret and apply relevant regulations without direct legal or compliance oversight. Option B. Prioritize the technical configuration of data matching and merging rules to achieve the highest possible data accuracy, with compliance checks performed only after the system is fully operational. Option C. Focus on implementing robust data security measures at the infrastructure level, assuming that strong network security will inherently satisfy data privacy regulations. Option D. Develop comprehensive data governance policies that explicitly map to MDM configurations, establish clear data stewardship roles, and integrate regular compliance audits and employee training. The correct answer is B. Prioritize the technical configuration of data matching and merging rules to achieve the highest possible data accuracy, with compliance checks performed only after the system is fully operational. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0, while a powerful tool for data governance, must be implemented and managed in strict adherence to relevant regulatory frameworks. The core challenge lies in balancing the technical capabilities of MDM with the legal and ethical obligations concerning data privacy and security. Professionals must demonstrate a deep understanding of how MDM configurations and data handling practices directly impact compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a proactive, documented, and auditable method for ensuring regulatory compliance. By establishing clear data governance policies that are mapped to specific MDM configurations and data stewardship responsibilities, organizations can demonstrate due diligence. This approach aligns with the principles of data protection regulations, which often require organizations to implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to protect personal data and ensure its lawful processing. The emphasis on regular audits and training reinforces the ongoing commitment to compliance, a key expectation from regulatory bodies. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical implementation without considering the regulatory implications is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of understanding of the legal obligations surrounding data management. For example, implementing data matching algorithms without assessing their potential to inadvertently create or expose sensitive data, or failing to document data lineage and access controls, can lead to violations of data privacy laws. Another incorrect approach that neglects to involve legal and compliance teams from the outset is also professionally deficient. This oversight can result in configurations that, while technically sound, are legally non-compliant, leading to significant penalties and reputational damage. The absence of clear data stewardship roles and responsibilities creates ambiguity, making it difficult to assign accountability for compliance failures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multidisciplinary approach. First, thoroughly understand the specific regulatory requirements applicable to the data being managed by MDM. Second, engage legal and compliance experts early in the design and implementation phases to ensure that technical solutions align with legal obligations. Third, develop comprehensive data governance policies and procedures that clearly define data ownership, stewardship, access controls, and data lifecycle management. Fourth, implement MDM configurations that support these policies and provide auditable trails. Finally, establish a continuous monitoring and training program to ensure ongoing adherence to both technical best practices and regulatory mandates. Question 4. System analysis indicates that a financial services organization is implementing IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 to manage customer data. For regulatory compliance and business intelligence, they need to provide a subset of customer information to an external analytics team. This subset should exclude direct personally identifiable information, PI, but still allow for meaningful analysis of customer behavior patterns. Which approach best ensures compliance with data privacy regulations while enabling the analytics team's objectives? Option A. Export the complete, raw customer data from IBM InfoSphere MDM server to the analytics platform and instruct the analytics team to manually remove PII before analysis. Option B. Rely solely on the external analytics platform's built-in data anonymization features to process the raw customer data exported from IBM InfoSphere MDM server. Option C. Permanently delete all direct PII fields from the customer records within IBM InfoSphere MDM server before exporting any data for analytics. Option D. Configure IBM InfoSphere MDM server to generate a view of customer data that uses pseudonymization techniques for direct identifiers and applies strict access controls to this view, ensuring only authorized analytics personnel can access it. The correct answer is D. Configure IBM InfoSphere MDM server to generate a view of customer data that uses pseudonymization techniques for direct identifiers and applies strict access controls to this view, ensuring only authorized analytics personnel can access it. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations where regulatory compliance is paramount. The professional challenge lies in balancing the technical capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 with the stringent data privacy and security regulations. Specifically, the need to ensure that sensitive customer data, even when anonymized or pseudonymized for analytical purposes, remains compliant with data protection laws is critical. Incorrect handling can lead to severe legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that not only meets business objectives, but also adheres strictly to the defined regulatory framework. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging IBM InfoSphere MDM servers, robust data governance and security features to implement a multi-layered strategy. This includes robust access controls, data masking techniques applied at the point of data consumption or export, and comprehensive audit trails. The system should be configured to allow for the creation of specific data views or reports that present pseudonymized or aggregated data for analytics, while ensuring that the underlying sensitive data remains protected and accessible only to authorized personnel under strict controls. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and purpose limitation, ensuring that data is used only for specified, legitimate purposes and that appropriate safeguards are in place to protect personal data. The focus is on controlling access and presentation of data rather than altering the core data in a way that might compromise its integrity or auditability for compliance purposes. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to directly export raw, sensitive customer data to an external analytics platform without implementing any form of data masking or anonymization. This directly violates data privacy regulations by exposing personally identifiable information, PI, unnecessarily, increasing the risk of data breaches and unauthorized access. Another incorrect approach would be to permanently delete or irreversibly alter sensitive customer data within the MDM system to create an anonymized dataset for analytics. This failure to maintain accurate and complete records, even for analytical purposes, can hinder regulatory audits and investigations, and may also violate data retention policies. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on the analytics platform's security features without ensuring that the data exported from MDM is already appropriately protected. This creates a dependency on external controls that may not be as robust or as consistently applied as those within the MDM system itself, leading to potential compliance gaps. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, prioritizing data protection and regulatory adherence. This involves understanding the specific data privacy regulations applicable to the jurisdiction, e.g., GDPR if in the EU, CCPA if in California, etc. Assuming a relevant jurisdiction for the exam's context. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying all sensitive data elements within the MDM system. 2. Assessing the regulatory requirements for handling such data, including consent, access, and processing limitations. 3. Evaluating the technical capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 to implement controls like access management, data masking, and auditing. 4. Designing a data flow and access strategy that minimizes exposure of sensitive data while enabling legitimate analytical use cases. 5. Regularly reviewing and updating these controls in response to evolving regulations and business needs. Question 5. Examination of the data shows that a significant number of customer records in the IBM InfoSphere MDM server v9.0 environment have associated consent flags indicating opt-out for marketing communications. A data steward is tasked with reviewing and potentially updating these customer records to ensure data accuracy and completeness for a new cross-selling campaign. The steward's primary focus is on enriching the customer profiles with additional demographic information, which approach best aligns with regulatory requirements and professional data stewardship best practices. Option A. The data steward must verify the consent status for each customer record being reviewed and ensure that any updates or data usage align with the customer's explicit consent preferences before proceeding with enrichment for the campaign. Option B. The data steward should prioritize data enrichment for the cross-selling campaign and assume that consent flags are managed by a separate marketing automation system without direct intervention during stewardship. Option C. The data steward should flag all records with opt-out consent for exclusion from the campaign and halt any further data enrichment until a broader policy review is conducted. Option D. The data steward should proceed with updating customer records, ensuring demographic information is accurate, and then separately address the consent flags if they impede the campaign. The correct answer is D. The data steward should proceed with updating customer records, ensuring demographic information is accurate, and then separately address the consent flags if they impede the campaign. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, where data governance policies, specifically those related to data privacy and consent management, intersect with the technical implementation of data stewardship. The challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive data analysis and reporting with the legal and ethical obligations to protect individual privacy and adhere to consent preferences. The professional difficulty arises from interpreting and applying the relevant regulatory framework, which for C2090-420 IBM InfoSphere MDM server v9.0, assuming a U.S. context for regulatory examples, would involve principles similar to GDPR or CCPA, though specific U.S. federal and state laws would apply to a technical MDM solution. Misinterpreting or misapplying these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties and reputational damage. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to data privacy regulations and established data governance policies by ensuring that data stewardship workflows explicitly incorporate consent management. This means that when a data steward reviews or modifies a customer record, they must be presented with and act upon the customer's consent status. This aligns with the principle of privacy by design and privacy by default, ensuring that consent is a fundamental consideration in all data handling processes. By integrating consent status into the stewardship workflow, the organization demonstrates a commitment to respecting individual privacy rights and maintaining compliance with data protection laws, which typically mandate that personal data is processed only with valid consent or other lawful basis. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of unauthorized data use and breaches of trust. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with data stewardship tasks without explicitly considering or verifying the customer's consent status. This fails to acknowledge the legal and ethical imperative to process personal data in accordance with consent. Such an approach risks violating data privacy regulations that require explicit consent for certain data processing activities, such as marketing or sharing with third parties. This could lead to fines and legal action. Another incorrect approach is to assume that consent is implicitly granted or that it is a separate process handled entirely outside of the MDM stewardship workflow. This disconnect between data management and consent management creates a significant compliance gap. Data privacy laws often require that consent is actively managed and that data processing aligns with the scope of that consent. Ignoring consent during stewardship means that data might be used or exposed in ways that violate the customer's expressed wishes, leading to regulatory penalties and loss of customer trust. A third incorrect approach might be to prioritize data completeness or accuracy over consent management during stewardship. While data quality is crucial, it cannot supersede legal obligations regarding data privacy. If a customer has not consented to their data being used for a particular purpose, then even if the data is accurate and complete, processing it for that purpose is a regulatory violation. This demonstrates a failure to understand the hierarchy of controls, where legal and ethical compliance must take precedence. Professional reasoning. Professionals in MDM must adopt a risk-based and compliance-first mindset. The decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding the applicable data privacy regulations and internal data governance policies thoroughly. 2. Identifying how these regulations and policies translate into specific MDM workflows and technical configurations. 3. Prioritizing the integration of compliance requirements, such as consent management, into the core MDM processes. 4. Regularly reviewing and updating MDM practices to reflect changes in regulations and business needs. 5. Fostering a culture of data stewardship that emphasizes ethical data handling and respect for individual privacy. Question 6. Performance analysis shows that while the advanced data governance features of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 have been implemented, key business units are not fully leveraging these capabilities to improve their operational efficiency or strategic decision-making. Which approach best addresses this gap from a stakeholder perspective? Option A. Blame the business units for their lack of technical aptitude and suggest they require more fundamental IT literacy training before they can effectively use the MDM system. Option B. Focus on developing additional technical enhancements for the MDM server based on internal IT assessments, without further consultation with business stakeholders, to add more features that might eventually prove useful. Option C. Proactively engage with business unit leaders to understand their specific operational challenges and demonstrate how the implemented MDM data governance features can directly solve these problems and deliver measurable business outcomes. Option D. Conduct a series of advanced technical training sessions for business users on the intricacies of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0's data governance modules, assuming the lack of adoption is due to insufficient technical knowledge. The correct answer is D. Conduct a series of advanced technical training sessions for business users on the intricacies of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0's data governance modules, assuming the lack of adoption is due to insufficient technical knowledge. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations where the perceived value of a new feature is not translating into tangible business benefits. The core difficulty lies in bridging the gap between technical capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 and the actual business outcomes desired by stakeholders. Stakeholders, particularly those in the business units, often focus on the what and why of their operational challenges, while IT teams may focus on the how of the technical implementation. Misalignment in understanding the impact and value of MDM features can lead to underutilization and dissatisfaction, even when the technology itself is functioning as designed. The professional challenge is to effectively communicate the value proposition of MDM, demonstrate its impact on business objectives, and ensure that the technology is being leveraged to its full potential to address specific business needs. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and collaborative engagement with business stakeholders to understand their specific pain points and demonstrate how the enhanced data governance capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 directly address these issues. This requires translating technical features into business benefits, such as improved data quality leading to more accurate reporting, reduced operational costs due to fewer data-related errors, or enhanced customer insights driving better marketing campaigns. By focusing on measurable business outcomes and aligning MDM initiatives with strategic business goals, the IT team can build trust and demonstrate the tangible value of the investment. This approach aligns with best practices in IT business alignment, emphasizing communication, collaboration, and a results-oriented mindset. It ensures that the MDM solution is not just a technical project, but a strategic enabler for the business. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to simply provide more technical training on the advanced features of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 without understanding the specific business context or challenges. This fails to address the root cause of underutilization, which is a lack of perceived value. Stakeholders may not see how abstract technical functionalities translate into solving their day-to-day problems. This approach is professionally deficient because it assumes a one-size-fits-all solution and neglects the critical step of understanding business needs. Another incorrect approach is to attribute the underutilization solely to the business user's lack of technical aptitude. This creates an adversarial relationship and shifts blame rather than seeking solutions. It ignores the responsibility of the IT team to effectively communicate the value and usability of the system and to provide support tailored to business needs. This is ethically questionable, as it fosters a culture of blame and hinders collaboration. A third incorrect approach is to focus on incremental technical enhancements to the MDM server without re-engaging stakeholders to understand if these enhancements align with evolving business priorities. This can lead to a continuous cycle of technical development that doesn't yield desired business results, wasting resources and further eroding stakeholder confidence. It represents a failure in strategic alignment and a lack of customer centricity in the IT delivery process. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a stakeholder-centric approach. This involves actively listening to business needs, understanding their challenges, and then mapping those needs to the capabilities of the IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9. 0. The process should involve 1. Discovery and alignment. Conduct workshops and interviews with key business stakeholders to identify their critical business objectives and data-related pain points. 2. Value articulation. Translate the technical features and functionalities of MDM into clear, quantifiable business benefits that resonate with stakeholders. Use business language, not technical jargon. 3. Demonstration and proof of concept. Showcase how specific MDM features can solve identified business problems through targeted demonstrations or pilot projects. 4. Continuous engagement and feedback. Establish regular communication channels to gather feedback, address concerns, and iteratively refine the MDM implementation to ensure ongoing alignment with business value. 5. Measurement and reporting. Define key performance indicators, KPI, that measure the business impact of MDM and report on these metrics regularly to demonstrate value and justify continued investment. Question 7. The risk matrix shows a moderate risk of data inconsistency and a high risk of regulatory noncompliance if customer contact information is not accurately and consistently managed across all customer-facing applications. Considering the capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9. 0 and the need for robust data governance, which approach best mitigates these risks. Option A. Rely on individual application owners to maintain their own data dictionaries and enforce data consistency through manual reviews. Option B. Integrate MDM as a read-only data source, allowing applications to pull data but not contribute to its master definition or governance. Option C. Develop custom data synchronization scripts between each application to ensure data is updated across the environment whenever a change occurs. Option D. Implement a centralized MDM hub to act as the single source of truth for customer data, enforcing data quality rules, data stewardship workflows, and providing a consolidated view for all integrated applications. The correct answer is D. Implement a centralized MDM hub to act as the single source of truth for customer data, enforcing data quality rules, data stewardship workflows, and providing a consolidated view for all integrated applications. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementation, balancing the need for robust data governance and compliance with the practicalities of system integration and business agility. The professional challenge lies in interpreting and applying the IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0's capabilities within the context of specific regulatory requirements without compromising data integrity or operational efficiency. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both compliant and effective. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core tenets of data governance and regulatory compliance as typically mandated by frameworks like GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, or similar data privacy laws, which are implicitly relevant to any robust MDM implementation dealing with personal data. It prioritizes data accuracy, consistency, and security by leveraging MDM's inherent capabilities for data stewardship and validation. This ensures that the organization can demonstrate compliance with data protection principles, such as data minimization, accuracy, and purpose limitation, by having a single, trusted source of truth for critical data elements. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical integration without considering data quality or governance would fail to meet regulatory obligations. For instance, simply replicating data across systems without establishing clear ownership, validation rules, or audit trails would create data silos and increase the risk of non-compliance. This could lead to inaccurate reporting, unauthorized data access, and potential breaches of data privacy laws, resulting in significant fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of deployment over thorough data modeling and governance would also be professionally unacceptable. This often leads to a system that is difficult to manage, maintain, and audit, ultimately undermining the intended benefits of MDM and increasing the likelihood of compliance failures. The absence of a well-defined data model and governance framework makes it challenging to enforce data standards and respond effectively to regulatory audits or data subject requests. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the business requirements, the regulatory landscape, and the capabilities of the MDM solution. It requires a phased approach, starting with a clear definition of critical data elements, establishing robust data governance policies, and then implementing the MDM solution to support these policies. Continuous monitoring and adaptation are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and effectiveness. Question 8. Analysis of a situation where a business unit requests the immediate integration of a new feature into the IBM InfoSphere MDM server that would leverage customer demographic data for personalized marketing campaigns. The request comes with a tight deadline, and the development team is aware that the existing customer consent records do not explicitly detail usage for this specific type of personalized marketing. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach for the MDM professional? Option A. Prioritize the business unit's deadline and implement the feature as requested, documenting the potential consent issue for future remediation. Option B. Halt the implementation of the new feature until a thorough review of existing consent is completed, and if necessary, new explicit consent is obtained from customers for this specific marketing purpose. Option C. Proceed with the feature implementation, assuming existing broad consent for marketing activities covers this new use case, and address any potential consent gaps post-implementation. Option D. Implement the feature using the demographic data, but anonymize the data before it is used for marketing to avoid direct privacy concerns. Correct answer is C. Proceed with the feature implementation, assuming existing broad consent for marketing activities covers this new use case, and address any potential consent gaps post-implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data privacy and integrity within an IBM InfoSphere MDM server environment, particularly when dealing with sensitive customer information. The core conflict arises from a business request that, if fulfilled without proper consideration, could lead to a breach of data privacy principles and potentially violate regulatory requirements concerning data handling and consent. The pressure to deliver a feature quickly, coupled with the potential for misinterpretation of data usage, necessitates careful judgment and adherence to established ethical and regulatory guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the proposed data usage against established data privacy policies and relevant regulations. This includes understanding the scope of consent obtained from customers for data processing and ensuring that the intended use of the data for the new feature aligns with that consent. If the proposed usage goes beyond the scope of existing consent, the professional must initiate a process to obtain explicit consent or explore alternative, compliant methods. This upholds the principle of data minimization and purpose limitation, which are fundamental to data protection regulations. It also ensures that the MDM system, as a central repository of trusted data, is not misused, thereby maintaining customer trust and regulatory compliance. This approach prioritizes ethical data stewardship and risk mitigation over immediate business expediency. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the feature implementation based on a broad interpretation of existing consent without verifying its applicability to the new use case. This is a regulatory failure because it risks violating data privacy laws by processing data for purposes not explicitly agreed upon by the data subject. It is an ethical failure as it disregards the customer's right to control how their data is used. Another incorrect approach is to implement the feature and then attempt to retroactively obtain consent or notify customers. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Data processing should be compliant from its inception. Retroactive measures do not rectify the initial noncompliance and can be seen as an attempt to circumvent data protection obligations. It erodes trust and can lead to severe penalties. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the concern about consent and data usage, prioritizing the business request solely due to time constraints. This demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility and a disregard for data privacy principles. It is a direct ethical failure, prioritizing business objectives over fundamental rights and regulatory mandates. This can lead to reputational damage and legal repercussions for the organization. Professional reasoning. Professionals dealing with MDM systems must adopt a proactive and risk-aware approach. When faced with a request that touches upon data usage and privacy, the decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding the request, clearly define the proposed data usage and its implications. 2. Regulatory and policy review, consult relevant data protection regulations and internal data governance policies. 3. Consent verification, assess the scope and validity of existing customer consent for the proposed usage. 4. Risk assessment, identify potential privacy risks and compliance gaps. 5. Consultation, engage with legal, compliance, and data privacy teams for guidance. 6. Alternative solutions, explore compliant alternatives if the initial request poses risks. 7. Documentation, maintain thorough records of the decision-making process and justifications. This structured approach ensures that business objectives are pursued responsibly, with a strong emphasis on ethical conduct and regulatory adherence. Question 9. The performance metrics show that the IBM InfoSphere MDM server V90 is experiencing increased latency during data ingestion and retrieval operations, potentially impacting downstream analytics and reporting. Considering the regulatory framework for data privacy and security within the specified jurisdiction, which of the following approaches best balances performance optimization with compliance requirements? Option A. Implement aggressive data caching strategies and optimize database indexing without a comprehensive review of data sensitivity and access controls mandated by regulations. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of data models and data stewardship workflows to identify opportunities for data minimization and apply granular access controls, while concurrently exploring performance tuning techniques that do not compromise regulatory adherence. Option C. Prioritize immediate performance enhancements by disabling certain data validation rules and audit logging features to reduce processing overhead, assuming that the core data integrity is maintained. Option D. Focus solely on hardware upgrades and network infrastructure improvements to address latency, deferring any assessment of data privacy and security implications until after the performance issues are resolved. The correct answer is A. Implement aggressive data caching strategies and optimize database indexing without a comprehensive review of data sensitivity and access controls mandated by regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the technical capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM server V90 with the specific regulatory requirements of data governance and privacy, particularly concerning the handling of sensitive customer information. The core difficulty lies in interpreting and applying these regulations to the practical implementation and operationalization of MDM, ensuring compliance without hindering essential business processes. Careful judgment is required to avoid both overcompliance, which can lead to inefficiency, and undercompliance, which carries significant legal and reputational risks. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the relevant regulatory framework, specifically focusing on data privacy and security mandates applicable to the jurisdiction. This involves a proactive engagement with legal and compliance teams to ensure that MDM configurations, data models, and data stewardship processes align with these mandates. For instance, implementing granular access controls, data masking techniques where appropriate, and robust audit trails directly addresses regulatory concerns around unauthorized access and data misuse. This approach demonstrates a commitment to ethical data handling and regulatory adherence, building trust with customers and stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical optimization without considering regulatory implications is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws, such as those requiring consent for data processing or mandating data minimization. For example, collecting and storing more personal data than necessary for a specific purpose, without explicit consent or a clear legal basis, would be a direct regulatory failure. Another incorrect approach might involve implementing security measures that are technically sound, but do not adequately address the specific data protection requirements outlined in the regulations, such as failing to implement appropriate data retention policies or inadequate breach notification procedures. This would expose the organization to penalties and reputational damage. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multidisciplinary approach. First, clearly identify and understand all applicable regulatory requirements. Second, assess the impact of these requirements on the MDM implementation and ongoing operations. Third, collaborate with legal, compliance, and business stakeholders to design and implement solutions that meet both business needs and regulatory obligations. Fourth, establish ongoing monitoring and auditing processes to ensure continued compliance and adapt to any changes in regulations or business practices. Question 10. Governance review demonstrates that the IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 implementation is experiencing significant data duplication and inconsistencies across critical customer data attributes. The project team is under pressure to deliver a fully integrated solution quickly. Which of the following approaches best addresses the underlying data quality issues and ensures long-term data integrity and compliance? Option A. Prioritize the integration of all identified source systems into the MDM server simultaneously, with the expectation that data quality issues will be resolved through subsequent data governance efforts once the system is live. Option B. Focus exclusively on implementing advanced technical deduplication algorithms within the MDM server to automatically identify and merge duplicate records, assuming this will resolve all data inconsistency problems. Option C. Immediately proceed with loading all available data from source systems into the MDM hub and plan to address data quality issues through technical deduplication processes after the initial load. Option D. Conduct thorough data profiling to understand the nature and extent of data anomalies, establish clear data stewardship roles and responsibilities, develop comprehensive data quality rules, and implement a phased data cleansing and migration strategy. The correct answer is D. Conduct thorough data profiling to understand the nature and extent of data anomalies, establish clear data stewardship roles and responsibilities, develop comprehensive data quality rules, and implement a phased data cleansing and migration strategy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations, balancing the need for data standardization and consistency with the practical realities of integrating data from disparate legacy systems. The professional challenge lies in identifying the root cause of data duplication and inconsistency, which often stems from differing data entry practices, varying data quality standards across source systems, and a lack of clear data ownership. The pressure to deliver a functional MDM solution quickly can lead to shortcuts that undermine long-term data governance. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that not only resolves immediate data issues, but also establishes a sustainable framework for ongoing data quality and governance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, phased strategy that prioritizes understanding the data landscape before implementing technical solutions. This begins with a thorough data profiling exercise to identify the types and extent of data anomalies. Subsequently, establishing clear data stewardship roles and responsibilities is crucial for defining ownership and accountability for data quality. Developing robust data quality rules and implementing data cleansing processes, followed by a phased data migration strategy, ensures that data is standardized and validated before being loaded into the MDM hub. This approach aligns with best practices in data governance, emphasizing a proactive and structured methodology to achieve reliable and trustworthy master data. It addresses the underlying causes of data issues and builds a foundation for continuous improvement, which is essential for regulatory compliance and operational efficiency. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a load and clean later strategy is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach prioritizes speed over accuracy, leading to the ingestion of potentially inaccurate or duplicated data into the MDM hub. This directly contravenes the principles of data integrity and accuracy, which are fundamental to many regulatory frameworks requiring reliable data for reporting and decision-making. It also creates a technical debt that will be more costly and complex to resolve later. Focusing solely on technical deduplication without addressing the root causes of data inconsistency is another failure. While technical tools can identify and merge duplicate records, they cannot rectify the underlying issues in source systems that generate these duplicates. This leads to a superficial fix that will likely see new duplicates emerging over time, undermining the long-term value of the MDM solution and potentially leading to ongoing compliance risks due to inconsistent data. Prioritizing the integration of all source systems simultaneously without adequate data profiling and cleansing is also problematic. This Big Bang approach increases the risk of introducing widespread data errors into the MDM hub, making it difficult to identify and resolve issues. It can lead to a chaotic implementation, erode trust in the MDM system, and create significant challenges in meeting data quality standards required by regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach MDM implementation by first understanding the data. This involves a comprehensive data profiling phase to gain insights into data quality, identify anomalies, and understand data lineage. Following this, establishing a strong data governance framework with clearly defined roles and responsibilities for data stewards is paramount. Data stewards are accountable for the quality and definition of master data within their domain. Next, develop and implement data quality rules and cleansing processes based on the profiling results. This ensures that data is accurate, complete, and consistent before it enters the MDM hub. Finally, adopt a phased migration strategy, starting with critical data domains and gradually integrating other sources, allowing for iterative refinement and validation. This systematic approach ensures data integrity, supports regulatory compliance, and builds a sustainable foundation for master data management. Question 11. Research into the ethical implications of data integration. A data steward working with IBM InfoSphere MDM server V90 encounters a critical data discrepancy affecting customer records. The business urgently requires the integrated data for a marketing campaign, but the discrepancy cannot be resolved through standard MDM reconciliation workflows. The steward is aware of a method involving direct access to the underlying database tables, which could expedite the fix, but this method is not officially sanctioned and bypasses established security protocols. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Share the sensitive customer data with an external data analytics consultant who claims to have a proprietary tool that can resolve such discrepancies rapidly. Option B. Utilize the unsanctioned direct database access method to correct the discrepancy quickly, ensuring the marketing campaign can proceed on time. Option C. Proceed with the integration using the existing, albeit inaccurate, data to meet the marketing campaign deadline and address the discrepancy later. Option D. Escalate the issue to the Data Governance Committee and Security Team, requesting an expedited review and approval for a secure, albeit potentially slower, resolution method. The correct answer is B. Utilize the unsanctioned direct database access method to correct the discrepancy quickly, ensuring the marketing campaign can proceed on time. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data privacy and security while also fulfilling business requirements for data integration. The core conflict lies between the immediate need to resolve data discrepancies for business operations and the long-term implications of potentially exposing sensitive customer information through an unauthorized or insecure method. The pressure to deliver a quick solution can lead to shortcuts that bypass established security protocols, creating significant risks. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing demands. Prioritizing compliance and ethical conduct. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established data governance policies and security protocols for handling sensitive customer data within IBM InfoSphere MDM server. This means utilizing approved integration methods that ensure data encryption, access controls, and audit trails are in place. By following these procedures, The data steward upholds their professional responsibility to protect customer privacy, comply with relevant data protection regulations, such as GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction. Though for this exam, we focus on general best practices within the MDM framework and maintain the integrity and security of the master data repository. This approach demonstrates a commitment to ethical data management and risk mitigation. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves directly accessing and manipulating the raw data files outside of the MDM server's controlled environment. This bypasses all security measures, audit logs, and validation rules built into the MDM system. It creates a significant risk of data corruption, unauthorized access, and breaches of customer privacy, violating the principle of least privilege and data confidentiality. Another incorrect approach is to share the sensitive customer data with an external, unverified third-party tool or individual for analysis and resolution. This exposes the data to potential misuse, loss, or unauthorized disclosure, as the third party may not have adequate security measures or may not be bound by the same privacy obligations. This action directly contravenes data protection principles and could lead to severe regulatory penalties and reputational damage. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the data discrepancy and proceed with the integration without proper resolution. While this might seem like a way to avoid immediate risk, it undermines the purpose of MDM, which is to create a single, trusted source of truth. It can lead to downstream operational errors, incorrect reporting, and a loss of customer trust if inaccurate data is used in customer-facing interactions. Ethically, it represents a failure to uphold the commitment to data accuracy and integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals in data management must adopt a risk-based decision-making process. When faced with a conflict between expediency and security/compliance, the default should always be to prioritize the latter. This involves 1. Identifying the core problem and its potential impact. 2. Consulting relevant policies, procedures, and regulatory guidelines. 3. Evaluating all available solutions against these established frameworks, considering security, privacy, and data integrity. 4. Escalating the issue to appropriate stakeholders or management if a compliant and secure solution cannot be readily identified or implemented within the required timeframe. 5. Documenting all decisions and actions taken. This systematic approach ensures that ethical obligations and regulatory requirements are met, safeguarding both the organization and its customers. Question 12. Market research demonstrates that implementing IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 can significantly enhance data quality and provide a single, trusted view of customer information. However, this consolidation of sensitive personal data raises concerns regarding compliance with data protection regulations. Which of the following approaches best addresses the potential risks associated with this MDM implementation? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment, DPIA, specifically tailored to the MDM implementation, identifying all personal data flows, processing activities, and potential risks to data subjects' rights and freedoms, and developing mitigation strategies in alignment with the relevant data protection laws. Option B. Perform a generic IT security risk assessment that covers the infrastructure hosting MDM, but does not specifically analyze the privacy implications of the consolidated personal data itself. Option C. Rely on the inherent data quality improvements of MDM to automatically satisfy all data privacy requirements, assuming that cleaner data is inherently more secure and compliant. Option D. Postpone a detailed risk assessment until after the MDM system is fully deployed and operational, focusing initially on technical integration and functionality. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment, DPIA, specifically tailored to the MDM implementation, identifying all personal data flows, processing activities, and potential risks to data subjects' rights and freedoms, and developing mitigation strategies in alignment with the relevant data protection laws. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the implementation of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0, while intended to improve data quality and governance, introduces new risks related to data privacy and security. The core challenge lies in balancing the benefits of enhanced data management with the imperative to comply with relevant data protection regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the MDM solution does not inadvertently create vulnerabilities or lead to noncompliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it proactively identifies and assesses potential risks associated with the MDM implementation in the context of the specific regulatory framework. This involves a thorough understanding of the data being managed, how it will be processed and stored by MDM, and the potential impact on data subjects. By aligning the risk assessment with the principles of data protection by design and by default, and by considering the specific requirements of the relevant jurisdiction's data privacy laws, e.g., GDPR if applicable, or equivalent national legislation, this approach ensures that risks are mitigated before they materialize. This aligns with the ethical obligation to protect sensitive data and the regulatory requirement to implement appropriate technical and organizational measures. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical benefits of MDM without considering data privacy implications fails to meet regulatory obligations. For instance, assuming that simply implementing MDM inherently resolves all data quality issues without assessing the privacy risks associated with consolidating and standardizing sensitive personal data would be a significant regulatory failure. This could lead to breaches of data protection laws, resulting in fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach might be to defer risk assessment to a later stage, which is a failure of due diligence and a violation of the principle of proactive risk management mandated by many data protection frameworks. This delay increases the likelihood of overlooking critical risks and implementing costly remediation measures after a potential incident. A third incorrect approach could be to conduct a generic risk assessment that does not specifically address the unique data types and processing activities within the MDM environment, thereby failing to identify and mitigate jurisdiction-specific data privacy concerns. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework that is integrated into the project lifecycle. This framework should include identifying all data assets that will be managed by MDM, understanding the legal basis for processing this data, identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities, assessing the likelihood and impact of these risks, and developing appropriate mitigation strategies. Crucially, this process must be informed by the specific regulatory requirements of the jurisdiction in which the organization operates and where the data subjects reside. Regular review and updates to the risk assessment are also essential as the MDM implementation evolves and new data or processing activities are introduced. Question 13. The monitoring system demonstrates a significant increase in the number of potential duplicate customer records flagged by the IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9 zeros matching engine. These duplicates have been identified based on a combination of name, address, and date of birth fields. The business requires a consistent and auditable method to resolve these duplicates to maintain a single, accurate view of customer data. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9 zero and professional data governance best practices for resolving these identified duplicates? Option A. Configure and apply survivorship rules within IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9 zero to automatically merge the identified duplicate records, selecting the most authoritative data attributes based on predefined criteria. Option B. Quarantine all flagged duplicate records in a separate holding table and await further manual investigation and resolution at a later, undefined date. Option C. Manually review each flagged duplicate record in a separate spreadsheet and perform merge operations directly within the database using ad hoc queries. Option D. Develop and execute custom SQL scripts to directly delete records identified as duplicates from the MDM database, without leveraging the system's matching or survivorship logic. The correct answer is A. Configure and apply survivorship rules within IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9 zero to automatically merge the identified duplicate records, selecting the most authoritative data attributes based on predefined criteria. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, where data quality issues, specifically duplicate records, are detected. The Professional challenge lies in determining the most effective and compliant method for resolving these duplicates within the IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9. Zero environment, considering the implications for data integrity, operational efficiency, and adherence to potential data governance policies. The need for a systematic and auditable resolution process is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging the built-in survivorship rules and matching configurations within IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9. This is best professional practice because it directly utilizes the system's design capabilities for identifying and merging duplicate records. Survivorship rules define the logic for selecting the winning attributes when duplicates are found, ensuring a consistent and predictable outcome. This approach is compliant with data governance principles by establishing clear rules for data consolidation, maintaining data lineage, and providing an auditable trail of how duplicates were resolved. It minimizes manual intervention, reducing the risk of human error and ensuring scalability. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to manually review and merge each identified duplicate record through ad hoc data manipulation outside of the MDM system's defined processes. This is professionally unacceptable due to significant regulatory and ethical failures. It bypasses the established survivorship rules, leading to inconsistent and unpredictable data consolidation. This lack of a defined, auditable process violates data governance principles, making it impossible to demonstrate compliance with data quality standards or regulatory requirements that mandate accurate and consistent data. It also introduces a high risk of human error, potentially corrupting master data. Another incorrect approach would be to simply flag all identified duplicates as invalid and quarantine them without a defined resolution strategy. This fails to address the root cause of data duplication and hinders the creation of a single, trusted view of master data. Ethically, it represents a failure to maintain data integrity and provide accurate information to downstream systems and users. From a regulatory perspective, it can lead to non-compliance if accurate and complete data is a requirement for reporting or operational processes. A third incorrect approach would be to implement custom scripts to delete duplicate records without a robust matching and survivorship logic. This is highly risky and professionally unsound. It bypasses the sophisticated matching algorithms and survivorship rules designed to ensure the correct record is retained and the most accurate attributes are preserved. This can lead to the accidental deletion of critical data or the retention of incorrect information, violating data integrity principles and potentially leading to regulatory noncompliance if data accuracy is mandated. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach data quality issues by first understanding the capabilities of the MDM system. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the nature of the data quality issue, e.g., duplicates. 2. Consulting the system's configuration, specifically matching rules and survivorship rules to understand how duplicates are detected and how the system is designed to resolve them. 3. Evaluating whether the existing configuration effectively addresses the identified issue. 4. If the configuration is insufficient, planning for adjustments to matching rules or survivorship logic within the MDM framework, rather than resorting to external or manual processes. 5. Ensuring all changes are documented, tested, and deployed following established change management procedures to maintain auditability and compliance. Question 14. Which approach would be most appropriate when a business unit requests the immediate integration of a large dataset containing customer information, where the consent status for certain data elements is unclear or potentially outdated, and the MDM team has identified potential privacy concerns with the proposed usage? Option A. Reject the dataset entirely due to the unclear consent status and potential privacy concerns, advising the business unit to acquire a new dataset with verified consent. Option B. Proceed with the integration, prioritizing the business unit's urgent request by temporarily disabling certain data quality and consent validation checks within the MDM system, with a plan to address the consent issues retrospectively. Option C. Halt the integration process and inform the business unit that the data cannot be integrated until a thorough review of consent documentation is completed, and if necessary, new consent is obtained or data is anonymized for the intended purpose, adhering strictly to data protection policies. Option D. Integrate the data as requested, assuming that the business unit has performed its own due diligence regarding consent and privacy, and that the potential risks are acceptable given the business urgency. The correct answer is B. Proceed with the integration, prioritizing the business unit's urgent request by temporarily disabling certain data quality and consent validation checks within the MDM system, with a plan to address the consent issues retrospectively. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in data management, particularly within the context of master data management, MDM. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate business need for accurate and complete data with the ethical and regulatory obligations concerning data privacy and consent. The IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 context implies a focus on enterprise-level data governance, where data quality and integrity are paramount, but so is compliance with data protection regulations. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to established data governance policies and regulatory frameworks, even when faced with pressure for expediency. This involves a structured process of data validation, consent verification, and potential data anonymization or pseudonymization if direct consent is not obtainable or sufficient for the intended use. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and purpose limitation often found in data protection laws, ensuring that data is handled responsibly and ethically. It represents best professional practice by upholding the integrity of the MDM system and protecting individuals' data rights, thereby mitigating legal and reputational risks. Incorrect approaches fail to adequately address the ethical and regulatory implications. One incorrect approach might involve overriding existing data quality rules or consent flags to quickly integrate the data. This would be a direct violation of data governance policies and potentially data protection regulations, as it bypasses necessary checks and balances designed to protect data subjects. Another incorrect approach could be to proceed with the integration without proper consent verification, assuming that the data is publicly available or that the business need justifies the risk. This disregards the principle of informed consent and could lead to breaches of privacy laws, resulting in significant penalties and loss of trust. A third incorrect approach might be to simply reject the data outright without exploring alternative, compliant methods of integration or data enrichment, which could hinder business objectives unnecessarily and demonstrate a lack of problem solving within ethical boundaries. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the data's origin, its intended use, and the applicable regulatory landscape. This involves consulting data governance policies, privacy impact assessments, and legal counsel when necessary. The process should involve a risk assessment of each potential action, weighing the business benefits against the ethical and legal implications. Prioritizing transparency, accountability, and adherence to established procedures ensures that data is managed in a way that is both effective for the business and respectful of individual rights. Question 15. The review process indicates that the organization is implementing IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 to consolidate customer data. To ensure compliance with data accuracy and completeness regulations, which of the following data stewardship strategies would best align with professional best practices and regulatory expectations? Option A. Allow individual business units to maintain their own data definitions and correction processes, with the MDM server acting as a passive repository for aggregated data. Option B. Implement the MDM server with a focus on technical integration, deferring the definition of data stewardship roles and responsibilities until after the initial deployment. Option C. Establish automated data quality rules and validation processes within the MDM server, coupled with clearly defined roles and workflows for data stewards responsible for exception handling and ongoing data maintenance. Option D. Rely primarily on manual data cleansing efforts performed by a dedicated team after data has been loaded into the MDM system, with minimal automated validation. The correct answer is C. Establish automated data quality rules and validation processes within the MDM server, coupled with clearly defined roles and workflows for data stewards responsible for exception handling and ongoing data maintenance. Explanation. The review process indicates a scenario where an organization is implementing IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 and needs to establish robust data governance policies. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient data stewardship with the regulatory requirements for data accuracy, completeness, and timeliness, particularly concerning customer data. This requires a deep understanding of how MDM capabilities can be leveraged to meet these obligations without introducing undue complexity or operational overhead. The correct approach involves designing a data stewardship model that aligns with the organization's specific data governance framework and regulatory obligations. This model should clearly define roles, responsibilities, and workflows for data creation, maintenance, and issue resolution within the MDM system. It should also incorporate automated data quality rules and validation processes, leveraging MDM's capabilities to proactively identify and correct data anomalies. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of data governance and regulatory compliance by embedding them into the operational fabric of the MDM implementation. It ensures that data is managed in a controlled, consistent, and auditable manner, thereby minimizing the risk of regulatory noncompliance and enhancing the trustworthiness of critical data assets. An incorrect approach would be to solely rely on manual data correction processes without leveraging the automated capabilities of the MDM server. This would be professionally challenging, as it would likely lead to delays, inconsistencies, and a higher risk of errors, making it difficult to meet regulatory demands for timely and accurate data. Ethically, it could be seen as a failure to adequately protect customer data by not implementing the most effective controls available. Another incorrect approach would be to implement MDM without clearly defined data stewardship roles and responsibilities. This would create ambiguity, leading to potential data ownership disputes and a lack of accountability for data quality. This failure would be professionally unacceptable, as it undermines the fundamental principles of data governance and could result in significant compliance risks. A further incorrect approach would be to prioritize technical MDM implementation over business process integration. While technical proficiency is important, neglecting to integrate MDM into existing business workflows and decision-making processes would render the system less effective and potentially create data silos or conflicting data interpretations. This would be a professional failure, as it misses the opportunity to derive maximum business value and ensure consistent data usage across the organization, which is crucial for regulatory adherence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of regulatory requirements, an understanding of the organization's data landscape and business processes, and a strategic evaluation of how MDM capabilities can best support these needs. This includes engaging stakeholders from both IT and business units to ensure alignment and buy-in. A phased implementation approach, focusing on critical data domains first, can also mitigate risks and allow for iterative refinement of the data stewardship model. Question 16. The analysis reveals that a planned enhancement to the customer data domain within IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 involves modifying the structure for storing customer contact preferences. This change is intended to support new marketing initiatives, but could potentially affect how customer communications are managed across various integrated applications, including CRM, email marketing platforms, and customer service portals. Which approach to assessing the impact of this change best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory expectations for data governance and integrity? Option A. Rely on the existing documentation of the customer data domain and assume that any changes will be handled automatically by the integrated systems without explicit verification. Option B. Prioritize the assessment based on the perceived urgency of the new marketing initiatives, focusing only on systems directly involved in outbound marketing campaigns. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that maps all direct and indirect dependencies of the customer data domain, quantifies potential risks to data integrity and downstream processes, and outlines mitigation strategies involving relevant business and IT stakeholders. Option D. Perform a limited technical review of the database schema changes within the MDM server and consult only with the development team responsible for the enhancement. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that maps all direct and indirect dependencies of the customer data domain, quantifies potential risks to data integrity and downstream processes, and outlines mitigation strategies involving relevant business and IT stakeholders. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations, assessing the impact of changes to a core data domain on downstream systems and business processes. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the impact assessment is comprehensive, accurate, and aligns with regulatory requirements for data integrity and governance. A failure to adequately assess impact can lead to data inconsistencies, operational disruptions, and non-compliance with data protection regulations. The correct approach involves a systematic and thorough evaluation of how changes to the IBM InfoSphere MDM server, specifically to the customer data domain, will affect all interconnected systems, reports, and business workflows. This includes identifying all direct and indirect dependencies, quantifying potential risks, and developing mitigation strategies. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively addresses potential issues before they manifest, ensuring data quality, system stability, and adherence to regulatory mandates such as those governing data accuracy and privacy. For example, if a change impacts how customer addresses are stored, a thorough impact assessment would identify all systems that use address data, e.g., billing, shipping, marketing, and ensure they can correctly process the new format, thereby maintaining data integrity and preventing regulatory breaches related to inaccurate customer information. An incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the technical changes within the MDM server, without considering the broader ecosystem. This overlooks the critical business context and regulatory implications. For instance, if the assessment only considers the database schema changes and ignores how a change in a customer's preferred communication channel might affect marketing opt-in/opt-out processes, it creates an ethical and regulatory failure. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws by continuing to send communications to customers who have opted out, or by failing to honor their preferences. Another incorrect approach is to rely on anecdotal evidence or the knowledge of a few individuals. This is professionally unacceptable as it lacks rigor and is prone to omissions, potentially leading to unforeseen data corruption or compliance issues. Such an approach fails to establish an auditable trail of due diligence, which is often a regulatory expectation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve establishing a clear impact assessment framework. This framework should mandate the identification of all stakeholders, the documentation of all dependencies, technical and business, the categorization of risks, and the definition of clear go/no-go criteria based on the assessment findings. It requires collaboration across IT, business units, and compliance teams to ensure all perspectives are considered. Question 17. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a significant change is proposed to the core matching algorithms within the IBM InfoSphere MDM server v9.0, which will alter how duplicate records are identified and merged. Which approach to assessing the impact of this change best aligns with regulatory requirements for data governance and change management? Option A. Form a high-level review of the MDM system's architecture diagrams and documentation, focusing only on modules directly involved in the matching process, and assume minimal impact on other areas. Option B. Initiate a broad communication to all IT departments requesting them to report any issues they encounter after the change is implemented, without prior specific impact analysis. Option C. Rely on the historical knowledge of senior technical staff to estimate the potential impact based on their experience with previous MDM implementations and similar algorithm changes. Option D. Conduct a thorough data lineage analysis, using the MDM server's built-in tools to trace all data flows and dependencies originating from or feeding into the matching process, and then validate these findings with key business stakeholders and owners of downstream applications. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough data lineage analysis using the MDM server's built-in tools to trace all data flows and dependencies originating from or feeding into the matching process, and then validate these findings with key business stakeholders and owners of downstream applications. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations, balancing the need for comprehensive impact assessment with the practical constraints of project timelines and resources. The professional challenge lies in identifying the most effective and efficient methods to understand the downstream consequences of proposed changes to the MDM system, ensuring that critical business processes are not disrupted and regulatory compliance is maintained. Careful judgment is required to prioritize assessment efforts and select appropriate tools and techniques. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it advocates for a systematic and data-driven methodology. By leveraging MDM's inherent capabilities to trace data lineage and understand data relationships, organizations can accurately predict the impact of changes. This aligns with regulatory expectations for data governance and change management, which often require documented evidence of impact analysis to demonstrate due diligence and risk mitigation. Proactive identification of affected systems and processes allows for targeted testing and communication, minimizing unforeseen issues and ensuring business continuity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on manual documentation or anecdotal evidence fails to provide the necessary rigor and accuracy. This can lead to missed dependencies, inadequate testing, and ultimately significant business disruption. From a regulatory perspective, this approach may be seen as a failure to implement robust change control processes, potentially violating data governance mandates. Another incorrect approach that relies on broad, generalized impact statements without specific technical validation is also professionally unacceptable. This lacks the detail required to inform effective mitigation strategies and can result in over- or underestimation of risk. Ethically, it represents a failure to provide stakeholders with accurate and actionable information, hindering informed decision-making. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a phased approach to impact assessment. First, clearly define the scope and nature of the proposed change within the MDM system. Second, utilize MDM's metadata and lineage capabilities to identify all directly and indirectly related data entities, attributes, and processes. Third, engage with business stakeholders and system owners of potentially impacted downstream applications to validate the predicted impact and gather their input. Fourth, document the findings comprehensively, including identified risks, mitigation strategies, and required testing. Finally, establish a clear communication plan to inform all relevant parties of the impact and the planned remediation steps. Question 18. Benchmark analysis indicates that a critical success factor for IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 implementations is the effective management of data governance and stewardship. A new project is underway to consolidate customer data from disparate sources. The project team is encountering resistance from several business units who are concerned about losing control over their existing data processes and fear that a centralized MDM approach will hinder their agility. Which approach best addresses these stakeholder concerns while ensuring robust data governance? Option A. Proactively establish clear data ownership and stewardship roles for key customer data domains, involving business unit representatives in defining data quality rules and validation processes, and demonstrating how the MDM solution will enhance, not replace, their ability to leverage accurate customer data. Option B. Prioritize the technical integration of all data sources into the MDM hub as quickly as possible, deferring discussions about data ownership and stewardship until after the initial data load is complete. Option C. Allow each business unit to maintain its own data definitions and validation rules within the MDM system, focusing the project on data aggregation rather than standardization. Option D. Implement a phased approach where the MDM system is initially used solely for reporting purposes, with data governance and stewardship responsibilities assigned to a dedicated IT team without direct business unit involvement. Correct answer is A. Proactively establish clear data ownership and stewardship roles for key customer data domains, involving business unit representatives in defining data quality rules and validation processes, and demonstrating how the MDM solution will enhance, not replace, their ability to leverage accurate customer data. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM implementations, balancing the need for data governance and standardization with the practical realities of business operations and stakeholder buy-in. The professional challenge lies in navigating differing stakeholder priorities and ensuring that the MDM solution, specifically IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0, effectively addresses the core business need for accurate and consistent customer data while adhering to relevant regulatory frameworks. The chosen topic for this question is data governance and stewardship within the context of MDM. The correct approach emphasizes establishing clear data ownership and stewardship roles, which is a cornerstone of effective data governance. This aligns with the principles of accountability and responsibility for data quality, a critical aspect often implicitly or explicitly required by data protection regulations, though specific regulations are not cited here due to the exam's jurisdictional constraints. The principle of accountability is universal in data management. By defining these roles, the organization ensures that there are individuals responsible for the accuracy, completeness, and compliance of master data, directly impacting the reliability of the MDM system. This proactive approach fosters a culture of data quality and reduces the risk of data-related compliance issues. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical implementation without addressing governance will fail to establish the necessary accountability for data quality. This can lead to data inconsistencies persisting, undermining the value of the MDM investment and potentially creating compliance risks if data inaccuracies lead to regulatory breaches, e.g., incorrect reporting, misidentification of customers. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate business unit needs over standardized data definitions can lead to data silos and fragmentation, defeating the purpose of MDM and creating a complex, difficult-to-manage data environment. This also increases the risk of inconsistent data being used for decision-making, which can have significant operational and reputational consequences. The professional decision-making process should involve a thorough understanding of the business objectives for implementing MDM, identifying all key stakeholders and their respective needs, and then mapping these to the capabilities of IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0. A critical step is to engage stakeholders in defining data governance policies, including data stewardship, data quality rules, and data lifecycle management. This collaborative approach ensures that the MDM solution is not just a technical tool, but a strategic enabler of trusted data, supported by the business. Question 19. During the evaluation of the initial data load strategy for IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0, a project team is faced with integrating data from multiple legacy systems. These systems exhibit significant variations in data formats, completeness, and adherence to business rules. The team needs to decide on the most effective approach to ensure the MDM hub establishes a clean and consistent single version of the truth for critical customer data. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for MDM implementation and data governance? Option A. Establish a manual review process for every single data record that exhibits any form of discrepancy, regardless of its criticality, before it is loaded into the MDM hub. Option B. Immediately load all data from legacy systems into the MDM hub, assuming that the MDM system's matching and merging capabilities will resolve all discrepancies automatically. Option C. Prioritize the speed of the initial data load by accepting all incoming data as is, with a plan to address data quality issues in subsequent phases after the MDM hub is operational. Option D. Implement a robust data profiling and cleansing process prior to or during the initial data load, utilizing MDM's data quality rules and transformation capabilities to standardize and validate data before it populates the MDM hub. The correct answer is D. Implement a robust data profiling and cleansing process prior to or during the initial data load, utilizing MDM's data quality rules and transformation capabilities to standardize and validate data before it populates the MDM hub. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations, balancing the need for data standardization and governance with the practical realities of integrating diverse data sources that may have varying levels of quality and adherence to standards. The professional challenge lies in determining the most effective strategy for handling data discrepancies during the initial data load and ongoing synchronization, ensuring that the MDM hub accurately reflects the trusted view of critical data entities, while minimizing disruption and maintaining data integrity. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both technically sound and compliant with the organization's data governance policies. The correct approach emphasizes a phased and controlled data integration process, prioritizing data cleansing and standardization before or during the initial load into the MDM hub. This aligns with best professional practices in data management, which advocate for a proactive stance on data quality. By establishing clear data quality rules and employing automated or semi-automated processes for data validation and transformation, the organization ensures that the MDM hub receives high-quality data from the outset. This minimizes the risk of propagating errors and establishes a reliable foundation for downstream processes that rely on the trusted data. Regulatory compliance is implicitly supported by this approach, as accurate and reliable data is a cornerstone of many data protection and reporting regulations, even if specific regulations are not explicitly detailed in the exam syllabus. An incorrect approach that immediately trusts all incoming data without validation or standardization would be professionally unacceptable. This would lead to the MDM hub becoming a repository of inconsistent and potentially erroneous data, undermining its purpose as a single source of truth. This failure directly contravenes the principles of data governance and quality management, increasing the risk of inaccurate reporting, flawed business decisions, and potential regulatory noncompliance due to unreliable data. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on manual review of all data discrepancies, is also professionally unsound. A manual review can be necessary for complex cases, making it the primary strategy for all discrepancies is inefficient, costly, and prone to human error and inconsistency. It fails to leverage the capabilities of MDM tools for automation and scalability, and it delays the establishment of a trusted data view, hindering business operations. This approach demonstrates a lack of strategic thinking in leveraging technology for effective data management. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing speed of initial load over data quality, is equally problematic. While rapid deployment can be a business objective, sacrificing data integrity at the initial stage creates significant technical debt and operational challenges down the line. The MDM hub would be populated with flawed data, requiring extensive remediation efforts later, which is far more costly and time-consuming than addressing data quality proactively. This demonstrates a failure to understand the long-term implications of data quality on the overall success of an MDM initiative. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the data sources, the business requirements for data accuracy and timeliness, and the capabilities of the MDM solution. It requires a risk-based approach, identifying critical data elements and potential data quality issues. Decision-making should be guided by established data governance policies, prioritizing approaches that ensure data integrity, enable efficient processing, and support regulatory compliance through reliable data. Collaboration between business stakeholders, data stewards, and technical teams is crucial to define acceptable data quality thresholds and remediation strategies. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that the Customer Relationship Management (CRM) department and the sales department maintain separate, often conflicting, customer databases. The CRM department's data is more comprehensive in terms of contact information and interaction history, while the sales department's data is richer in terms of deal status and revenue projections. The organization is embarking on an IBM InfoSphere MDM Server v9.0 implementation to establish a single, trusted view of the customer. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for a unified customer view with the operational requirements and existing data strengths of each department, while adhering to data governance principles? Option A. Prioritize the technical cleansing and deduplication of all existing customer records from both databases before any integration with the MDM system, assuming that a clean dataset will naturally lead to a unified view. Option B. Mandate the immediate migration of all data from both departments into the MDM system, with the CRM data serving as the primary source for all customer attributes, and enforce strict data entry rules for the sales department going forward. Option C. Develop a phased integration strategy where critical customer identifiers and contact information from CRM are initially mastered, followed by a collaborative effort with the sales department to define and integrate key sales-related attributes, establishing clear data stewardship roles for both departments. Option D. Implement the MDM system using only the sales department's data as the master source, as it is directly tied to revenue, and require the CRM department to adapt their processes to align with the sales data structure. Correct answer is B. Mandate the immediate migration of all data from both departments into the MDM system, with the CRM data serving as the primary source for all customer attributes, and enforce strict data entry rules for the sales department going forward. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in master data management, MDM, implementations, balancing the need for data standardization and governance with the operational realities of diverse business units. The core tension lies in enforcing a single, authoritative view of customer data when different departments have historically managed their own customer records with varying degrees of accuracy and completeness. The professional challenge is to implement MDM effectively without causing significant disruption or alienating key stakeholders, while ensuring compliance with data quality and privacy regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, collaborative implementation that prioritizes critical data elements and engages business users from the outset. This aligns with best practices for MDM adoption, which emphasize user buy-in and a gradual transition. By establishing a clear data governance framework, defining data stewardship roles, and implementing a robust data quality monitoring process, the organization can build trust in the MDM system. This approach ensures that the MDM solution not only meets technical requirements, but also addresses the business needs and concerns of each department, leading to sustainable data governance and improved data integrity. This is crucial for regulatory compliance, as accurate and consistent data is fundamental to meeting reporting obligations and demonstrating due diligence in data handling. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing MDM without comprehensive business unit consultation risks creating a system that is perceived as an imposition rather than a solution. This can lead to resistance, workarounds, and ultimately, a failure to achieve a single, trusted view of customer data. Such a failure can have regulatory implications, particularly concerning data privacy and accuracy, as it hinders the ability to respond to data subject requests or to ensure the integrity of data used for regulatory reporting. A Big Bang approach, forcing immediate adoption of all standardized data elements across all departments, is likely to overwhelm users and disrupt existing workflows. This can lead to data errors during the migration and a loss of confidence in the MDM system. From a regulatory perspective, widespread data inaccuracies resulting from a poorly managed rollout can lead to non-compliance with data protection laws that mandate accurate and up-to-date personal information. Focusing solely on technical data cleansing without addressing the underlying business processes and data ownership issues will result in a superficial fix. Data will likely become inconsistent again as business operations continue. This approach fails to establish sustainable data governance, which is a key requirement for ongoing regulatory compliance, especially in areas like data lineage and auditability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach MDM implementation with a strong emphasis on change management and stakeholder engagement. The process should begin with a thorough analysis of existing data landscapes and business processes, followed by the development of a clear data governance strategy. Collaboration with business units is paramount to identify critical data elements, define data ownership, and establish data quality rules that are both effective and practical. A phased rollout, starting with pilot programs and gradually expanding, allows for continuous feedback and refinement. Regular communication, training, and ongoing support are essential to ensure user adoption and long-term success. This methodical and inclusive approach not only maximizes the chances of a successful MDM implementation, but also underpins the organization's ability to meet its regulatory obligations concerning data accuracy, privacy, and security.